In today's tutorial I'm going to challenge you further by making this Yes Yes shawl. This is a comprehensive shawl tutorial, and this shawl is a little bit more challenging than the rest of shawls we've seen online, and this shawl requires more concentration, a lot less conversation, but when you see the final look of it you're going to flip out, and your friends will too. So let's get started. Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd as well as Yarnspirations.com. Today we're going to work on the Yes Yes shawl together, a pattern by Vickie Howell. Now today we're going to be working on this, and the reason why I chose it is that it has a diagram that's attached to the pattern. So you can read all of these words here, or you can just check with yourself and see if you can follow the diagram. This is a great opportunity to do so. Now we taught this on the Crochet Cruises in February of 2015, and a lot of the cruisers, when they were going to use this pattern, end up using the diagram because it's a lot more easier to follow than a lot of the written word. We're not saying it's wrong, we're just saying that it's easier to visualize it as a diagram. So here I have the shawl ready to go. I'm going to show you pointers on getting started and tips on how to read this diagram, because once you get beyond a certain level it's just a repeat pattern, and you'll notice that it will grow on its own. So let's begin to decipher this for you, and you can again read the words if you want, but I'm going to concentrate on the diagram because I think it's easier to follow the diagram on this particular concept than it is to follow the written word. The diagram is really the roadmap to success when it comes to crocheting this shawl. Now what do you notice about this? Do you see that this is like a spray? Okay, a crochet spray of fan work, and then all of a sudden you see a gap, and then you see two fans, and then all of a sudden you see three. So this is showing you that it's a repeat pattern. So this is why this crochet diagram is not showing the entire shawl, because once you see the concept repeating itself you can really be able to function really quite nicely. But here's the thing. Do you see this gapping space right here in this line, and this one here, and this one here? These are the lines that dictate how your afghan is, or how your shawl is gonna grow, because this is going to provide you the spaces that you need in order to make more fans in the future. So as you repeat the pattern, even though you cannot see anything going beyond this, if you're following the same instructions that you had been on here, you can see that it's repeating as we go. So the biggest thing about this one is getting started, and once we get started then the repeat pattern begins to show, and it becomes really easy to read. But I'm gonna give you some further tips that we talked about on the ship, because if you can see what's going on here you're going to see that it's less complicated than it may look. Now while I was on the ship I described this particular shawl as having some sprays or fan work and a ladder, and I noticed that in the beginning right in the center here is that it looks like there's a ladder. Jacob's ladder could be, and basically this ladder is dictating what happens on the right is happening on the left. So it becomes like a mirror image to what is happening on either side. So once you figure out what is going on one side you just have to repeat it in the opposite going on the other, and it becomes very easy to follow once you get that concept. But here's the thing I found with myself is that I get confused on where this ladder is, because once this starts getting bigger and bigger you can actually start making an error that this gapping space could actually be this. So it's just really easy to be able to tell. So I have my sample here in the background, and you can see that there's the ladder going up. So basically I can see that this is the center point, and you can see that the sprays are on one side or the other, and it just makes it for a very easy way to be able to follow along. So what's happening on one side is happening on the other. What we're also going to be working with this particular pattern is that we're going to be working with some back or front posts, and the front posts provide a really spray kind of a look to it, so it makes it really three-dimensional at the same time. So you can either follow the written instructions and follow the chain counts, or you can literally just grab your magnifying glass or just your glasses and just be able to follow along these steps that you can see here. And here's the secret. The secret is 8. See all these double crochets here? There's 8. See all these ones right here? There's 8. See these ones here? There's 8. So the question is that you start off with 8, and then the next group of 8 there's one chain in the middle, and then the next group is that there's still 8 but then there's 2 chains. The secret is to really watch this area right at the ladder, because some things are just not the same when you're coming into this particular area. So we're gonna be focusing on that today, and I'm gonna get started right now. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to use Bernat Super Value as my demonstration, but you should know that the original that shows up in the beginning of this tutorial is done with glam stripes. I used 4 balls of that. I'm going to use this material because it's a little bit easier to read or easier to see on camera. I'm going to use a 5mm size H. I also used a 5mm size H for the glam stripes, even though the pattern calls for something a little bit smaller. So just you can flex around, change the yarn to match the hook, whatever you would like to do. So let's begin. We are going to start off with a slip knot, and this is going to go relatively easily. I'm gonna take my time because I love this shawl. So I have my diagram now ready on the side, and somebody asked me, how do you follow those without getting lost? Use a highlighter or a pen or a pencil. It's pretty fundamental. Here we go. We're going to start off and we're going to chain 12. Remember, the one on the hook doesn't count as one. So let's do 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So this, if you look at the diagram, is part of the base and it's part of the turnaround as it's going around. So you just have to kind of visualize that. So what we want to do is that we want to count back to the 9th chain. So 1, so just starting underneath the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And right in the 9th you want to double crochet. Very good. So now what we're going to do is that this is part of the ladder. This is part of that very middle section right here, and what we want to do is chain 2. So in the ladder we're always going to chain 2 no matter what it is. We're then going to double crochet into the final chain, but if you look at the instructions it shows that you're gonna skip over 2 anyway, and the final one is the 3rd one over anyway. So that just is a helpful tip. So there you go. But we're not quite done. We have to get to the other side. So this is the ladder. So this is one side. So there is a mirror on the other side. So what we have to do then is that we have to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what we want to do is that we want to do a treble, okay, right into the very starting chain right here. So we're gonna wrap twice and going into there, and we're going to finish that off. So the reason why we did a treble and not a chain all the way back around like we had over here is that we need to start off at this particular point. So we have to start off on the outside, as this is the sprays. So this is what it would look like at this point. It looks like a ladder going across, but this is the ladder going in the middle, and I'm going to probably mark this with a stitch marker so that it's easier for me to see. So if you want to do that too, I'd recommend it. So when I come back I'll have that done. Moving up to row number 2, I want to turn my work first. So this is where it was. I put in my stitch marker so I know where it is, and I want to begin. So to start we have to chain 3, and that counts as a double crochet in the rules of crochet. So 1, 2, and 3. So what we're going to do at this point is that we're going to put 8 double crochets into this entire gapping space here. This is that chain 4 gap space. So we're gonna put 8 double crochets. So let's count those out together. So 1, and we have 2, we have 3, we have 4, we have 5, 6, 7, and 8. Very good. So we now have 8 in that space. So we had 1 right in the beginning that was part of this chain. So there's 1. We have 8 then in this gap, but here's the ladder right in the middle. So in this particular row what we have to do is that we have to put a double crochet into the same double crochet from the one below to keep that ladder going up. That happens on every particular row for this. Okay, and then we chain 2. So there's always a chain 2 gapping space in the middle of the ladder, and then we just double crochet the other side of the other double crochet to keep that ladder going up like so. And then you put in 8 over here. So what are you gonna put over here? You're going to put 8, but there's a trick once we get our 8 done. So let's do these. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. But here, so now you have your 8 over here and you have your 1 standing alone. So the final one that goes in here, you have all your 8. So the final one goes into the 5th chain. So we have to make sure 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Just pull it tight if you need to do it. The 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 go into the 5th chain for your double crochet. So you actually put it right into the chain to be able to maintain that on the outside. So this is what it looks like at this point. Okay, so now we're ready for round number 3. Let's begin round number 3. We're going to turn our work, and round number 3 is really simple as well, but this time round number 3 we want to start off and chain 5. Why are we doing that? Well, if I told you in the very beginning, if we're following this pattern and basically the 8 double crochets are here now, the next level up is that there's still 8, but then there's one single crochet or one chain in between each. So therefore we have to compensate for that. So we have to be able to chain 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then what we're going to do is that in every double crochet for this remaining of the 8 we're going to put 1 double crochet and chain 1, and we want to do that for the entire ones that are inside that gapping space that you see below. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that when you get to the ladder, that's when the game plan changes just slightly. Okay, and we're chaining 1 in between each. Okay, and see how I marked this in the middle, so I can keep a really good eye on where that is. You can get confused really easily on this one, on where your center point is. So you go all the way to the last one. Okay, but you make sure you chain 1 first, and then what you have to do is just make sure you just count. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So that matches. So you had 8 below and you now have 8. You have your last one in followed by a chain 1, and now you're going to put 1 on top of the other one that's in the ladder. So a double crochet on top of a double crochet. And then how many are in between the ladder? It's 2. So 1 and 2, and then the other side of the ladder you're going to put in double crochet, and then start by chaining 1 and then 1 double crochet into each of the 8 followed by a chain 1. We did as I'm doing this, we did this on the ship, and a lot of people, they like to gossip and talk, and a lot of them were just struggling with the concept of this. A lot of them were not familiar with reading diagrams either, so that became a challenge. But once people got onto the diagram and understood it, it becomes a lot easier. So once we get our 8 in, I just want to double count. So remember that this ladder one does not count as one of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, and then I have the last one here, so we have a chain 1 and then just double crochet into the last one that's part of that there. And that's what it looks like at this point. So you can see it's really starting to come together. So let's move along to round number 4. Okay, let's turn our work and let's move up to row number 4. Row number 4 is when the game plan slightly changes, and this is where we have to be careful. So we're going to start off and we're going to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, and we're going to go into the first gapping space here. Okay, so we're now gonna play in the gapping spaces. We're not gonna play in these double crochets. So we're just going to double crochet into a gap space there. It's a chain 1 gap space, and then we're going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and then keep doing another one into the next gap space that you run into. So you're going in between, and then chain 2 and chain 2 and chain 2, chain 2, okay, and chain 2. And this is the row that really throws people for a loop, because you've started a little bit earlier by putting it into the first gap space. So we still only want 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. But look, you have your ladder still here. Okay, so on this particular one, we don't put anything in the chain 1 gap space that's prior to the ladder. We leave it out. But what we still have to do though is that we still have to chain 2 and then just go right into the top of the ladder. So double crochet into the top of the ladder. So just watch for that one, because we have started into the gap space here and it's slightly earlier than what these 8s are. That means that you will not do the one that's right prior to it. So we're in the top of the ladder for a double crochet, chain 2, and then double crochet into the next top of the ladder on the other side, and we're going to repeat the same thing. So we're going to chain 2 and we're going to skip this first gap. Why? Because we skipped it over here. So we just want to make sure that everything balances, and we go to the second, chain 1 gap followed by a chain 2, and then keep doing that all the way to the other side. So this is consisting of doing one set of fans. So as this gets bigger, that this instruction becomes more and more spaces in between everything as there's more fans to working into it, if that makes any sense. I'm not even sure, but this is just one fan out of many that you will be creating throughout this entire tutorial or a particular project. So I think I only have 7 at this point, so I'm gonna check 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. How did I know that? Well, I still had a chain 1 gap space here, so I just wanted to verify that I was right. So we do it there, and on this side only for this particular one is that when we get back over here, what we want to do is just chain 1 only, not 2, and then we just want to go into the third chain up to finish that one up like that. So that's what it looks like at this point, and that is row number 4. So this is when the game plan changes. We're going to start then creating the gap space so that we can make more room for fans coming out later on in this particular shawl. Let's move up to row number 5. In row number 5, this is when we start creating the gapping spaces that you can will be able to see. So to start off with this one, we're going to be chaining 10, and you're gonna think this is kind of weird, but just stick with it and trust me. So we're gonna chain 10. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and 10. So now this time what you want to do is, you can see that these gapping spaces, this is a chain 1 gap space, this is chain 2. We want to do a half double crochet into the second one that's over, just like so. So we skip that first one and half double crochet into the next, and then what we want to do is chain 6. So 1 2 3 4 5 and 6, and what we want to do is skip another gapping space and go to the second one over for another half double crochet, and then chain 6 again. 1 2 3 4 5 and 6, skipping 1, going to the second, chain 2 gap space for a half double crochet, and chain 6. 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. Okay, skip another one, just go to the second one over, and basically we have to chain 6 one more time. So 1 2 3 4 5 and 6, and this time see the ladder that's right in the center, we want to follow that ladder up, and that's where we're going to double crochet. So we've been half double crocheting into the gapping spaces here, but on here we still maintain and put a double crochet in. So basically you end up with these gapping spaces just like you see. They're pretty big, and if you've done your math right, there should be 5. 1 2 3 4 5. So we're in the ladder, so remember the ladder, we're going to be putting in sorry, I think I did a half double crochet there, so I want to do a double crochet there, and then chain 2, and then double crochet onto the other side of the ladder. So let's begin to do this again. So we're going to chain 6, 1 2 3 4 5 and 6, and we're going to skip the first one and go to the second gap space for half double crochet and do 6. 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. Again, skip the next one, go to the second over, and then chain 6. 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. Again, skip the next one, go to the second over for half double crochet, and again 6. 1 2 3 4 5 and 6, and again we're going to skip this next one, go to the second over for half double crochet, and then we're going to chain 6 one last time. So 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. But this time what you have to do for this particular one is that you have to go and do, on the third one up, you have to do a treble. So wrapping twice and the third chain to complete that one. Why did we have to do that? Because the simple fact is that we chained 10 to start with, so it creates an extra big gap here, and we needed to do the same on this side. So let's move on to the next row where we're gonna start now creating more fans that will fill in the spaces, and you're gonna start seeing the repeat pattern showing up. So let's turn our work and we're going to start more fan spaces, but this time we're going to start creating this fan that you see here, but it's gonna start creating 2 of them within this particular row. So this is the repeat pattern that we're going to be working with from now on. So we're going to start off and we're going to chain 3. So 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to start off in the first gapping space, and how many are we gonna do? We're going to do 8 double crochets. So let's do that. So this is 2, 3, this is 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so once you have that done, you just simply lean over to the next gapping space and just plop a half double crochet there, and that pulls that over just like you see. Do you see that? So now we're going to chain 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then half double crochet into the next one, the next gapping space. So we've got to wrap first, and then we're going to chain 6 again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then we're gonna half double crochet into this gapping space. So what we're doing here on this particular one is that we've gone from 5 gapping spaces on the row below, and this time we're only gonna be left with 2. Okay, so we're eliminating 2 on both sides. So once we have this done, this is the final one before the ladder, and in this particular one we're going to put 8 double crochets here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And to finish this off, we need to put 1 double crochet into the top of the ladder. So on the first side of the ladder, see how this is consistent going all the way up, and then we're chain 2 as we skip over the middle of the ladder, and then double crochet into the other side. So basically what we've done here is that we've created more sprays to work with here, and we're leaving this gapping spaces because see how this one gets much bigger? This spray and this one is going to expand into each other as we go. So let's begin to do this side, and we're gonna start off and doing 8 double crochets into the first gapping space. So this says 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And remember what we did on the other side. Once you had your 8, we go into the next gapping space and just finalize it with a half double crochet, and then we chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, half double crochet into the next gapping space and do 6 one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Coming into the next gapping space for a half double crochet because we're only gonna end up with 2 of gapping spaces in between the fans. So you'll have just 1 more gapping space left, and guess what? That's where your 8 are going to be. So we have 1, 2, and 3, that's one we kept, that's 3, and then we have 4, we have 5, 6, 7, and 8. And on there what we have to do is that the 4th one up, so 1, 2, 3, and 4 will get a double crochet. So that stabilizes that chain. Okay, so we had your 8 in there plus the 1 for the outside. So basically now we have both sides of the shawl, and basically you have your ladder in the middle, you've got new sprays starting to happen, and now the next time we're gonna get bigger and more of these gapping spaces are going to start disappearing. So watch how I do that. Let's turn our work and move up to row number 7. Row number 7 we're gonna start off by chaining 4. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3 and 4, and we're going to double crochet into the next double crochet followed by a chain 1, and we're gonna do that for each one of these 8 that are in this particular spray. So chain 1 and then come into the next double crochet and then chain 1. So keep doing that. The secret is to watch and make sure you get your 8 in whenever you do this. The 8 matters. So we keep doing that. Okay, and I'm just looking for the ladder, but the ladder is way over here, so I shouldn't be looking for that ladder yet, so that's false advice. But I still do want to make sure I keep my counts, so I just want to make sure I'm doing this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, and then once we have our 8 in there, all we have to do then is that we have to chain 1, and then we're going to, in the first gapping space, we're going to put in a half double crochet followed by a chain 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and then we come to the next gapping space in half double crochet. So what we're doing here in this particular one is that the 5 from way down here became 2, and now it only becomes 1. So you see how the sprays kind of run into this one. We're gonna do the same on the other side. So all we just have to do before we start that is that we have to chain 1 first and then half double crochet into the first one of the 8, sorry, double crochet into the first one of the 8, and then chain 1 and then keep going for your 8 like that. So double crochet, chain 1 into each, and now we're heading close to the ladder, so we're gonna be watching for that in just a moment. Okay, so I want to just kind of keep count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I still have one more to go. And then chain 1, and then the ladder is next. You can see the ladder is running down right down the middle, and we're going to put in a double crochet there, followed by a chain 2 because that's the middle of the ladder, and then the other side of the ladder. Okay, so to repeat this pattern once again, we chain 1. So we're gonna come down the other side, so you can see that these have just gotten bigger. Okay, so we're coming down the other side, and we're gonna start on the first double crochet that's available to you in double crochet, chain 1, and keep doing that for those 8. So the next part of this tutorial, the next round, is when we start doing the front post or the back. I think it's the front post at this point, and this is what makes it give it the texture which is very desirable within this particular pattern. Okay, so I just want to keep count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and chain 1 and do my final, which is 8. Okay, chain 1 and then half double into the gapping space, chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and then coming to the other one for half double. Okay, and chain 1 first, and then we begin these 8. So we just start off with just 1 double crochet, chain 1, keep doing those for those 8. So you're thinking to yourself, how do I read the pattern so quickly? This pattern is very easy to remember once you grasp it, and once you grasp it, then you can put the pattern away and be able to finish on your own without it. It's just a matter of understanding that repeat pattern that is available to you. The biggest hang up for me was that ladder right in the middle. Sometimes I just got a little too carried away and just forgot, and I overlooked it. So what I'm going to do then is just make sure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8 I have my chain 1 in there, and just right in the top of the turning chain I just want to put in a final double crochet to keep that balanced. So that's what it looks like at this point. So this is when the game plan is going to change, and we're gonna start working, I believe, on the front post. Do front post double crochet, and this is what gives it the texture. So from here on in, this is this round number 8 is going to always be in this. So the repeat pattern is already starting to emerge, and this is the final one before we repeat the pattern once again. We're going to chain 5 to start. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and this is where we're gonna start doing front post treble our front post double crochets. So in the first one of the 8 you're just gonna double crochet into the front post. So come around into the post, pop it out the other side, and just do a double crochet as normal, and then you're going to do chain 2, 1 and 2, and then you're going to the next one, so just into the next post, and then chain 2, and then into the next post, and you're doing this for all of the 8 that you have available to you. Because it's lace work, it's really easy to get your stitches into there. It doesn't take any extra time at all to do this. And I'll show you what the results are on the other side, because the good side is on the other side. And how do I know that? That's because where all the action is going to appear. Every time you're repeating the pattern, this will always be on the same side. So chaining 2, and I want to make sure I'm getting my 8 in there, so I don't count this first one. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. I still have one more to go. And then once I have that in there, all I'm just going to do is just chain 1. I'm going to half double into this gapping space, and then I'm going to chain 1 and then repeat again. What I already know is that I'm going to start way over here on these front posts, right over here, and I want to make sure I get the right one in there. So I've got 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8. So this is the first one, and I'm just gonna do a double crochet, chain 2. These are front post double crochets once again. Chain 2. Okay, and chain 2. Chain 2. Chain 2. Okay. Chain 2, and I want to make sure I get all of those in there, so there should be a total of 8. So I got 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8, and I can tell I've got 8 in there anyway because my ladder is coming up right down the center. And then once you're at this particular point, you're going to chain 2 and then double crochet into the top of the ladder, and chain 2 and then double crochet into the other side of the top ladder. So what's happening on here is that you've just created a lip that appears here, and this becomes a really three-dimensional design at this particular point. So let's do the other side. So we're gonna start off and chain 2, so the other side of the ladder, and these are your front posts right here. You're going to do 8 of those, and make sure you put a chain 2 in between each. Just like so. So the only difference in this pattern going forward is that you're adding more and more of these sprays that are in there, but as I indicated right in the very beginning is that the gapping spaces that you start off with in the next row is what dictates how many more sprays will go into the next. So if there's 2 sprays in this particular row here, next time we're gonna be able to create 3 sprays. So we're looking at the center here, so we don't count that one. So we got 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8, and then to finish this one off here, the 8, we just chain 1, we half double into the gapping space that's between the sprays, chain 1, and then we immediately start over here in the first one of the 8 and just do front post double crochet, chain 2, and keep doing that. So you can see that some of these rows are really labor intensive and others are really quite simple, like this one. So you know, some of the rows you're gonna be able to zip along pretty quickly, and other rows that you just have to put in a little extra stitch work. Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day, so it's actually worth the extra time that you can put into this. This shawl, when it's done, looks absolutely incredible. There's no mistaking that. So when you get all the way and you get all of them done, I want to check. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8. We're going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and then just double crochet into the first turning chain there. like so. So this, I'm gonna turn my work now, but this is, you can see the lip is happening, and I'm going to show you the repeat pattern just once only on these gapping spaces, because once you see the gapping spaces, everything that you know that's happening from here on forward is just a repeat of this particular shawl. So let's begin row number 13. So here's your repeat pattern. You're going to chain 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And like what you did before is that, remember back here is that we skipped over the first one here and we went to the second gap space. Well, we're doing the same thing here. It just looks slightly different because of the raised lip of what we just did in the row below, but don't let that confuse you. We're going to half double crochet. We're skipping the first one, going to the second, half double crochet, and then we're going to chain 6. Want to know a secret? Everything is chaining 6 right to the ladder. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We skip the next gap space, go to the second over for half double crochet, and then guess what? Chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Skip the next gapping space, and then that's half double, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Skip the next gap space. So here's what is going to happen in between here, these spaces. You don't want to play in these spaces right here, and you can see that this is where the sprays are coming together. So we're still going to chain our 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and we just want to open these up, okay, and you want to be into this one over here. So do you see how it looks like this? There's got one here, here, and here. We want to start right here, okay, and we're going to half double crochet. Chain 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, skip the next one. Okay, half double. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Skip the next gap space, going over. Half double. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, skipping the next gapping space. And this is where I really want to pay attention. You see that the ladder is coming up right here. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I have this gapping space before the ladder. I'm skipping that and I'm double crocheting right into the top of the ladder. Okay, so now you created all these gapping spaces on this particular one. So to go over the ladder, it's chaining 2 as always, and then double crochet over top of the ladder. And then we're gonna start doing our chaining of 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Skipping the first gapping space, go to the second for a half double, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Going to the next, skip the next gapping space right here, go to the second over for a half. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Skipping the next gapping space, go over the next, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so here's the trick. Okay, so we got to be able to pay attention is that we're skipping 1, going into that 1 just at the end before it changes over to the middle section right here, and we're chaining 6 still. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Just paying attention at this middle section, and we want to go right here. Okay, so we're skipping this middle section. We can do a half, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Half, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So when we finish this row, what's gonna happen is that you can just follow the remainder of the pattern, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and just simply being able to add in the extra fans as you need it as per the diagram, and this is the final one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then just double crochet and over here in the third chain up. Okay, so basically when we started this second section we had the fan here, then we just followed the gapping spaces to create 2 more fans. So this time there will be a fan here, there's going to be a fan right in the middle, and then there's going to be a fan right over here at some point as well. So you just have to follow the diagram in order to make this work, but you can see that this is actually turning out really quite beautifully, and it works out to be really amazing. And if you can be able to pull this off, it's absolutely just incredible. So good luck with that. Just grab your diagram, follow along, and you will see that the repeat pattern will make a lot of sense once you get a hold of it. So until next time, I'm Mikey on behalf of Yarnspirations as well as the crochetcrowd.com. We'll see you.